Well, welcome back. We are happy to be here again with you. This is Fly on the Wall from Souls and Hearts. I am Dr. Peter Malinowski, clinical psychologist in Indianapolis. We are here with our co-host,
Dr. Jerry Creed from Atlanta, Georgia.
And with our esteemed guests. And we're happy to have each one of them with us. And over here, we have Dr. Mark Glafke of Glafke Psychological Services in Lafayette, Indiana. Dr. Andrew Sodergren from Rural Woods. I got it right.
Thank you, Peter.
It's very good. All right. Dr. John Cadwallader from Central Psychological Services on the south side of Indianapolis. And we have Dr. Erica Goudan from Integritas Psychological Services on the east side of Indianapolis. And it's a pleasure and honor to be spending time together. And we are going to pick it up with the topic where we left off the last time we all got together. And I did see that you guys all managed to wear the same shirts.
Follow through.
We're going to talk about the human and spiritual formation that we do, right? What kinds of things do we think it's important for us to do as clinicians in order to be able to do this work? So, figure our viewers might be interested in that.
Before we get into that, I think this is a good discussion because it's a sense of where, I don't know about you guys, but I think there can be an over-idealization of us as therapists too, where they think that we're perfect. So I'm here filming this with you. I'm bilocating doing therapy right now.
You're bilocating to your daily holy hour.
So I mean, there is that sense in terms of how people see us, in terms of, and also the real, in terms of that which we are, which can be both in some ways, or misrepresented.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's immensely, huge part of what we do. Like, I couldn't imagine being a therapist without spending time in preparation, in prayer, in sacraments, but also fraternally, like this is like interacting with other Catholic therapists that, reaching out to some of you, reaching out for prayer. And, when there's difficult things that we're facing professionally or personally. I have great targets and goals in my spiritual development, and I know I'm probably in the minority. I don't hit all those goals, but I can really feel it when when I'm not really being prayerful consistently, not just at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, but throughout the day. Like prior to sessions, it's common for me to pray before, sometimes praying with patients, depending on what their comfort level is, but yeah, and I think I'm also praying to get access to some of my stuff and my challenges so that I can be better equipped to respond to my patients, to family and community. And I think it's a great gift that we have. But I can't imagine, I'm impressed with those that are therapists and, maybe don't have a particular faith approach to their lives, and how they're able to hold up is amazing to me.
I think about that because the high prevalence of therapists who are agnostic or atheistic. I can't imagine the work that we do without the awareness of God. I think there'd be a natural proclivity either to defend and avoid or to despair. Because to your point, Mark, it's the sense of where, the importance of prayer, or the awareness of God, working through us in that, I think providentially, He does have it figured out. Yeah. And for me, it gives a sense of rest in that, try and be present with the person. We don't have to have all the answers because we really don't have them. God does.
I love that because I might have a natural tendency to take on responsibility, want to fix everything, want to help everyone, want to be the savior. But with God, I don't have to. I can just relax and be me and allow God to do His work and let go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you guys have ever had the experience, but there are times where I've tried to do too much. Right?
Oh, really?
Not you, Peter.
Just saying.
Go on, this is all good.
Just saying.
Is there more than you can do? That's the question. There was a limit to that.
Well, I'll tell you that is an attempt to actually usurp the role of God. right? Right? That's an attempt to usurp the role of God, right? And that doesn't work out for me. Partly because God's jealous of his role, So I get reminded of that and that's been part of my, not only my spiritual formation, but that's part of my human formation, right? To realize that, I have a tendency to want to do for other people, kind of like what you were talking about, Jerry. I was really resonating when you were talking about that, proclivity to try to, to help. I mean, there's a reason that we become clinicians, right? People that, don't really care about other people don't generally go into the field of psychology as practitioners, at least,
Right.
Or mental health services. So, I mean,
We don't get a lot of referrals.
Well, no, you should, right? You should know how to handle every
Right.
situation. You should know how to respond in the moment to everything. You should be able to provide time
Right.
for everything. And no, it's like being docile to the Holy Spirit is really important. Like in terms of, I think, developing virtue of humility as individuals. Like I think I have a beautiful plan in some of my sessions. Like it's gonna be amazing. And I realize this is not going to go the way that I intended, and that's okay. But what helps ease my anxiety and worry, it's like if I'm prayerful about it, it's like, right, God is going to allow something to happen I did not foresee or the patient didn't foresee, and then something happens and it's like, wow, it's amazing.
I think some of our patients are disappointed. And they're disappointed in the sense of where we don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the humility, I think, is important in the sense of it's powerful for someone to hear, and at times upsetting, Dr. Sutherland, just tell me what to do and I will do it. I will make a cake. Well, I mean, if you can make lots of cakes and follow a recipe, it doesn't mean it's good. And it's really, what I say kind of off the cuff, but I mean this, the sense of where, well, maybe you should ask God. Are you praying about this? Are you talking to him about this? So it's not so much a way that I know, but maybe you need to ask the one that does.
But he doesn't talk to me.
That's right.
But often the response is, I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that. And it doesn't work for me.
Which, I mean, that's very common. And I think what's, to comment that Jerry made earlier, that opens up something so much more too, because then you start to explore, what is my relationship with God? Frankly, who is God?
Right.
But to get back to us and how we are.
It was too much
formed.
time on God. Let's.
But
in the interest of the topic, right?
Yeah,
We want to make good on the.
I am extraordinarily blessed. And 2 days a week I work out of my parish, which is a Byzantine Catholic church. So I feel like I live in a sanctuary, work in a sanctuary, and so it's very easy to sit in prayer in the church. Even I do counseling in an actual chapel. So, I mean, I'm in an environment where I'm completely surrounded by it. So it's so easy to just walk into a space of prayer. My clients come in, they wait and pray. Often they don't have to, it's just an option. But it's like, that's a nice, when I'm in my office, I have to have reminders. Right. So I have a picture of Mary and Jesus, like a mother and child image. I have an icon. And it constantly brings me back, reminds me and takes me back to God as just a throughout the day, space. And I don't know, like you were saying, Mark, earlier, like I don't know how one functions without that. It's just life-giving. It's just a constant reminder of why I'm doing anything.
Yeah, how do you hold on to the conviction that there's meaning in suffering, without that? And we come in contact with a lot of suffering, experiences that people have had or ongoing things that they're struggling with. And without some sense of the transcendent, some sense of purpose and meaning that God has a plan for all this, that redemption is real, I would have a hard time seeing how you could, continue to do this work.
Well, being reminded, I think if we're truly loving our patients, going back to an earlier conversation we have, there's a cost in that, of giving, of energy, of time. It's a great cost, but I think being reminded of the ultimate goal, which is, the salvation of the soul of the person we're working with and our own. It's a mutual good,
Right.
As you said.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing to expend yourself doing, but because of that cost and that energy, if we're not balanced, particularly in our spiritual life and our prayer life, the devil could enter in and want to tempt us, feel like you're too worn down, don't do this, or want us to take on more things, which can really water down maybe some of the work that we do. So we've had some other conversations about
We have,
this.
haven't we? Yes.
Well, that's an important point to bring up. Like I'm really thankful to God for all of you guys, because we get together on a regular basis, and part of my human formation has been, bouncing things off of you guys, talking about what's going on and having things get pointed out, we've come to know each other really well over the years, right? And that's been huge in my formation as a human being. Not just the spiritual stuff, just the spiritual things. We pray together. We share other aspects of spiritual life, but the human formation is really, really critical, because grace builds on nature, right? You've got to have a solid natural foundation for that spiritual building to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important for us to talk about the natural level stuff too. And absolutely, friendships and this group in particular have been very, very important for me. But I mean, other simple things on a natural level that I know I need to attend to if I'm going to be able to be present to my patients, like getting a good night's sleep. I mean, that's such a simple thing, but I know I can only go a night or two, short on sleep before it starts to spill over, and I can't concentrate, and I'm spacing out and things like this. And I've also noticed that, and you and I were talking about this the other day, Dr. Gudan, that is exercise. Exercise really helps me just in terms of being able to focus and have energy, and it just improves my mood too. So I just feel like I do better work when I'm well rested and I've had some exercise. And it's just good for me in general too. But I think it trickles down to my patients and my family.
I've noticed I've tried to start to do exercise in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I've tried to work that in. And because the mornings just don't work for me.
Yeah, I understand.
And what I have found is that when I do that, when I come home, I have all this energy. Whereas if I don't, I come home and I'm just like,
drained.
I just want to collapse on the couch kind of thing. And so I love that difference. I love that point.
It does feel we're talking a lot about self-care, about being mindful of the cost and how to detox, how to maintain the receptivity, the capacity to be present to our patients and to help them with the pain that they have, and to do something with the effect that has on us, and not consider ourselves some impervious supermen who can handle everything and do everything and keep doing everything. Because eventually you wear down.
Well, not all of us are Dr. Malinowski. So you're absolutely right.
And for those of us who aren't, we have to take our breaks.
Take care of ourselves.
There's some backstory to that.
Well, it's just because we all admire you so much. We all look up to you. John, you spoke of idealizing therapists. We're all guilty of that a little bit here. Yeah.
It's just different ways to discharge the aggression, which the negative emotions come in. Some people slaughter chickens. Some people go to the gym. Some people chop wood. It's just different ways we know which help us.
But therapists never go to therapy themselves, though.
Oh, no.
Right?
Why would they need to? They're in therapy all the time.
We have such amazing insight into ourselves, right? We're so
But you raise a really great point, right? I mean, if you go back to psychoanalysis, right, and the way that, because that was really where clinical psychology, kind of had its roots, right? There was an absolute requirement that you went through, your own analysis, right? And the idea was that you were going to be confused about interpreting somebody else's experience if you didn't understand your own experience. And that wasn't grounded in Catholicism. That was just a natural level observation that reasonable people came to. Not that all the early psychoanalysts were
reasonable.
Certainly not all in accord with Catholic thought, I think you could say. So yeah, I mean, and many schools of therapy now still are pretty adamant about the need for your own therapy as a therapist.
There are therapists who specialize in working with other therapists. I think we're a special group.
Yeah. We are special.
With unique needs.
Special needs. Yeah, so we're a tough group.
I think we're tougher, actually.
Yeah, I think so
We
too.
overthink everything.
Well, you know the old saying about doctors being the worst patients, right? I think there's truth to that. Yeah. For me personally, having a spiritual director has been important. You know, but also at times having a therapist, especially if I was going through a difficult time. You know, because we do have to continue to work on our stuff, you know, and to look at ourselves. And, you know, the work we do, you know, is challenging. Sometimes, you know, you're working with a patient and you realize that you have the same problem the patient has, right? You know, that's always uncomfortable, right? But
You see, he's handling it better sometimes. It's kind of embarrassing.
That particularly feels bad. When that happens, yeah.
It's part of the receptivity. You're trying to be present and not complain to him about that.
Yeah, but it's the boundaries.
Boundaries thing. And as well, talk about knowing our own stuff. And I think there is an implicit space, how much space in session, if we haven't resolved something, if we're afraid to go somewhere because of our own issues, that does constrict what people are able to do. Some patients are pretty intuitive. Well, people are intuitive, can tell how much room there is, and some people don't want to overburden you. And if
It's true.
you're burned out, okay, I guess I can't talk to him about stuff today. So how about them Steelers?
Well, that's a good point, because what it can imply is a sense of what we consider to be acceptable to talk about and what's unacceptable too. But ideally, I mean, our patients should be able to talk about anything. There's some things they can't do, but in the sense of what they say, they should feel free.
All right, but if they're filtering because they think it's going to be burdensome to us, right? Then that's a problem. That's where our brokenness is limiting the therapy.
It's a feedback that we are giving because we're tired, burned out, whatever.
Right. And we might not even be aware of it.
But clients are often exquisitely sensitive to it, you know, oftentimes. I learned a ton about doing therapy from being a client in the therapeutic, you know, in the therapeutic interaction too. I mean, that was really informative. Like, there are things that I've learned from my therapists that have been really helpful as well. So, and then there were some things I learned from my therapist that I said, I'm not going to do that. So,
It feels different on the other side.
yeah, it is.
Well, that might be a good place to wrap things up.
Wrap things up. All right. Well, again, thank you to all of our guests, and thank you to Real Woods in Cincinnati for hosting us. And we will look forward to getting together again in the future and to picking up the conversation at Fly on the Wall here at Souls and Hearts. God bless. Take care.